evil and the forgiveness of it. Self-certainty is the primary face for conscience. The universal Ansich takes a second place. For the universal consciousness represented by other people, the absolute certainty of conscience is essentially evil and hypocritical. The universal moral consciousness represented by the others tries to unmask the hypocrisy of the individual conscience. It tries to show that the universal, impersonal language of morality is both used by the conscientious person and also serves to disguise his personal contempt for that universality. There is an inherent incompatibility between the impersonal universality of conscious utterances and the claim to obey one's own private standards. To be impersonal about confessedly personal standards is to abuse others. But when the impersonal moralist condemns private conscientiousness as hypocritical, base, etc., he sets up one arbitrary personal standard against another. He in fact legitimizes the conscience he attacks by taking issue with it. The judgment of universal morality is unwilling to enter the arena of action and remains snug within the universality of thought. It thereby itself exhibits hypocrisy, since it wishes its impeccable judgments to do duty for hazardous deeds. The judgment of universal morality is itself a mode of action, and its main concern is to denigrate men's conscientious acts by explaining them by interested motives like ambition, desire for happiness, moral vanity, etc. No act can escape judgment in such denigratory terms. No hero can be a hero to his valet because the latter is a valet. The exalted consciousness which judges the active individual can itself be convicted of hypocrisy. It is afraid to act, and it passes off its cowardice as a wonderful piece of insight. The man of action sees his judge correctly as but another agent, and humbly confesses his imperfections to him. But this confession of moral inadequacy is not met by a similar confession on his judge's part. The judge remains stiff-necked and hard-hearted. Such a retention of uncommunicating being for self in the face of the other's renunciation of the same denies the very nature of spirit, which is the master and lord over every deed and reality, and can make any of them as if it had never been. The beautiful soul represents no accommodation of the class here considered. It simply passes away in yearning. It does not insist on its own being for self, and merely sinks down to unassertive, soulless being. The true accommodation of the two sides just mentioned occurs when the moralist drops his attitude of stiff-necked judgment and matches the confession of inadequacy of the practical man. The recognition of himself, the moralist, in the erring practical agent involves an act of reconciliation and forgiveness, which simply is absolute spirit showing itself between the two antagonists. The notion of pure duty and tainted individual are two sides of the same notion in seeming opposition. They are the I, whereas the ego knows itself in its absolute other, another ego. This is the first full appearance of God, the object of religion, on the phenomenological stage.